Press your thumb against a pane of glass and look closely. What you see is a labyrinth of ridges and valleys, a miniature topography that is yours and yours alone. This pattern has become a cornerstone of modern identity, the key to our phones and the ghost we leave at a crime scene. But why is it there? Why did evolution bother to sculpt these intricate, entirely unique designs onto the tips of our fingers and toes? To understand this, we first need to appreciate what a fingerprint actually is. It's not a stamp or an engraving, it is an integral part of our skin's structure. Our skin has several layers, but for this story, two are crucial. The outer layer, the epidermis, and the layer just beneath it, the dermis. The fingerprint pattern we see is on the surface of the epidermis, but its origin story begins deeper, at the boundary where these two layers meet. The pattern is formed by what are called papillary ridges. If you look at them under a microscope, they look like tiny mountain ranges on your skin. These ranges create three fundamental types of patterns that form the basis of all fingerprints: the gentle sweep of the arch, the hairpin turn of the loop, and the concentric circle of the whorl. But these broad classifications are not what make your fingerprint unique. If that were all, there would only be a few dozen fingerprint types shared among the 8 billion people on Earth. The true magic lies in the details. Forensic experts call them minutiae, the tiny, specific points where a ridge might suddenly end, or split into two, or form a tiny island. It is the precise location and arrangement of these dozens of minutiae that create a pattern so complex it has never been repeated in all of recorded human history. In short, your fingerprint isn't just a whorl or a loop. It is a specific whorl or loop defined by a constellation of unique characteristics. So the question becomes twofold. How are these patterns formed, and what purpose did they evolve to serve? The answer to the first question, how they form, is a beautiful story of biology, physics, and pure chance. Imagine yourself as a tiny fetus, only about 10 weeks into development, floating in the warm, quiet environment of the womb. At this stage, your hands are smooth paddles. But deep within the skin, a process is beginning. A specific layer of cells, called the basal layer of the epidermis, starts to grow. Crucially, it grows faster than the dermis below it and the outer epidermal layers above it. This differential growth creates a problem. The basal layer is trapped, so as it expands, it has nowhere to go. It begins to buckle and fold under the pressure, creating complex, unpredictable waves and contortions. It's a process governed by what physicists call a buckling instability. You can see this same principle at play elsewhere in nature. It's why a stretched rubber band doesn't shrink smoothly but snaps into a tangled mess, or why a geological plate buckles to form a mountain range. The forces are immense, and the resulting structure is a chaotic, yet patterned release of that tension. In the developing fetus, these primary folds in the skin will become the permanent foundation of the fingerprint. The pattern is locked in by about the 17th week of gestation, long before birth, and it will not change for the rest of your life, barring a deep injury. This is where the uniqueness comes from. While your DNA provides a very basic blueprint, it might suggest you're more likely to have whorls than arches, for instance. It does not dictate the exact final pattern. That part is random. The precise folds and ridges are influenced by a cascade of chaotic variables inside the womb. The exact pressure of the amniotic fluid pushing on the developing fingertips, the baby's position, the subtle movements they make, the precise rate of bone growth in the fingers, even the fluctuating density of the fluid around them, all of these factors minutely alter the stresses on the skin as it buckles. It turns out, this is why even identical twins, who share the exact same DNA, have different fingerprints. They may have similar overall patterns, both might have loops on their index fingers, but the minutiae, the ridge endings and bifurcations, will be entirely different. Each twin experienced a slightly different journey in the womb, a different symphony of pressures and movements. Their fingerprints are a physical record of that unique developmental path. Essentially, your fingerprints are not just a product of your genetic code, they are a collaboration between your genes and the laws of physics, a story written by chaos. So, that explains how we get these unique patterns. But it doesn't answer the bigger question, why? Evolution is famously pragmatic. It doesn't typically create such an elaborate and consistent feature across an entire species without a very good reason. For billions of years, these patterns existed on our ancestors without anyone being aware of their uniqueness. They must have served a more fundamental, survival-based purpose. The most classic and widely accepted theory is all about grip. Our primate ancestors were arboreal, living their lives in the canopies of forests. A secure grip on a branch, especially a wet one, was the difference between life and death. The ridges on our fingers and palms, and on our toes and the soles of our feet, are thought to function like the tread on a car tire. They increase the coefficient of friction between our skin and a surface. Early studies seem to confirm this, showing that the ridges help us maintain grip, especially on rough surfaces. They deform and allow for more contact points, preventing slippage. Furthermore, some evidence suggests the ridges may help to channel water away, much like the grooves in a tire, maintaining friction even in damp conditions. This makes perfect sense for a species whose survival once depended on navigating a complex, three-dimensional world of branches and vines. It's no surprise that most primates, from chimpanzees to gorillas, have fingerprints. In a fascinating case of convergent evolution, even koalas, marsupials that are entirely unrelated to primates, evolved their own fingerprints for climbing eucalyptus trees. The patterns are so similar to human fingerprints that even experts can have trouble telling them apart. But what if grip is only part of the story? In recent years, a compelling new hypothesis has emerged, one that shifts the focus from our hands as tools for holding to our hands as instruments for feeling. To understand this, we need to look at the nerves in our fingertips. Our fingertips are among the most sensitive parts of our body, packed with an array of nerve endings that specialize in detecting pressure, vibration, and texture. One of these, the Pacinian corpuscle, is exquisitely sensitive to high-frequency vibrations. The sensory theory proposes that fingerprints act as a sophisticated signal amplifier. Imagine running your finger across a surface, like wood grain or fabric. The ridges of your fingerprint don't just glide smoothly, they catch and release on the microscopic bumps of the texture. This process creates a series of tiny, high-frequency vibrations in your skin. It turns out, the specific spacing of our fingerprint ridges is almost perfectly tuned to amplify the vibrations that Pacinian corpuscles are best at detecting. The ridges essentially focus and filter the textural information, converting the physical surface into a rich stream of neural data. In this view, your fingerprints are like the needle of a record player, translating the grooves of the world into a high-fidelity sensory experience. This would have been incredibly valuable for our ancestors, allowing them to distinguish between different types of food, test the integrity of a surface before putting their weight on it, or manipulate tools with incredible dexterity. A third, less dramatic but still important theory, suggests the ridges help protect the skin itself. The valleys between the ridges allow the skin to stretch and deform more easily without tearing, which could help prevent blisters from forming during repetitive tasks. So, what does this all mean? The evolutionary purpose of our fingerprints is likely not one single thing, but a combination of all three. They are a multi-tool, providing grip, enhancing our sense of touch to an extraordinary degree, and offering structural integrity to the skin. Evolution rarely produces a feature for just one job. Ultimately, the story of our fingerprints is the story of humanity in miniature. It begins with a random physical process in the darkness of the womb, a chaotic folding of skin that forges an identity. This identity then serves a deep evolutionary purpose, connecting us to our tree-dwelling past and enabling the delicate sense of touch that allows us to build, create, and perceive the world with incredible richness. And finally, in a relatively recent turn of events, our own consciousness recognized the profound uniqueness of these patterns, transforming them from a mere biological feature into a powerful symbol of the individual. So, the next time you leave a smudge on a glass, or feel the texture of a leaf, take a moment. You are engaging with a legacy that is millions of years old. Those tiny swirling lines are a map of your own personal journey, a testament to the fact that in a universe of billions of stars and billions of lives, you are the result of a process so beautifully complex, so exquisitely random, that it could never be repeated. Your fingerprint is not just a mark you leave on the world, it is the unique and indelible mark the universe has left on you. And yet, for all their biological uniqueness, there's a fascinating twist in how our species has come to use them. We think of a fingerprint match as infallible proof, a final word in matters of justice. But what if that certainty is an illusion? The smudges and impressions left behind on a surface are rarely the clean, complete prints we see in a database. They are often partial, distorted, smeared, and overlapping. The analysis depends on a human expert comparing what might be just a tiny fraction of the full pattern. In short, the process is not one of absolute matching, but of interpretation. and human interpretation is fallible. Evidence suggests that cognitive bias can sway an examiner's judgment. Knowing other evidence points to a suspect can make a match seem more certain than it is. So, the absolute 1 in billions uniqueness forged by physics in the womb is ultimately filtered through the imperfect and subjective lens of human psychology. Ultimately, the story of our fingerprints is the story of humanity in miniature. It begins with a random physical process, serves a deep evolutionary purpose, and ends as a symbol filtered through our own consciousness. From the chaos of the womb to the complexities of the courtroom, these tiny ridges are a testament to the fact that in a universe of billions, you are the result of a process so beautifully complex, so exquisitely random, that it could never be repeated. If you found this story compelling, consider subscribing for more explorations into the world around us.